Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Brendan Peterson with Scribe Software. We're going to be kicking off our webinar in just a moment or two. So just sit tight. In just about a minute, we're going to go ahead and get underway. All right. Hi, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started here. So my name is Brendan Peterson. I'll be presenting this scenario over to you guys today. We're going to cover off a little bit of housekeeping to begin with. For those of you who aren't familiar with the ON24 platform, a quick slide on how to use it. Talk about really what we're going to talk about here with this world of data silos that we're all living in. Move into some representative use cases around customers we've seen in the real world who have been dealing with and solving this problem themselves, and then move over into how they've been able to solve that utilizing an integration platform as a service and some of the things that those customers have gotten out of there for their results. So the housekeeping, we should be about 30 minutes for presentations, including questions at the end. So we'll make sure we make the most of the time you guys have spent with us today. Utilize that questions area in the ON24 platform throughout if you have any questions. So if something comes to mind, don't hesitate to put it in there. We will hold questions to the end just so we can get to the bulk of the content, but I will make sure we go through all those questions at the end of this presentation. If you want to use the media controls, you can use that to adjust the audio. So this is all voice over IP or voice over the computer. So leverage that audio area, that media control, to move the volume up or down. So as an introduction, like I said, we're going to talk about this based upon some real customer experiences that we've had in the integration space from Scribe Software's point of view. We're going to roll that into this representative customer called Jetflix International. This is going to be a company who has divisions across the globe, and because of that, they've now been dealing with the fact that they've got lots of data in multiple different business units. So they might have a United States presence, some MEA and APAC presence as well, and they've got that data is pretty much across the entire enterprise. They service the same customer base, so they're servicing a worldwide provider network. They go to market through both partners and through direct business. So they have the requirement that they may have a division that they're selling to, which is a global company, and having that data across the entire enterprise is starting to become a problem for them. This also is the problem with today's market where new apps, legacy apps, these are all combining data and being added on minute by minute, day by day. With the explosion of cloud, it's incredibly easy for a line of business user to bring another application into the mix without going through global or corporate IT. This now becomes a headache to manage because not only do you have to bring that into your enterprise solution, you now have to worry about integration and how that data is going to be managed across the entire enterprise. Going forward, you also have the mergers and acquisitions. So as your company grows, you acquire other smaller companies, you merge with other partnerships, and now that brings in other systems in play where that data now becomes your data, and you need to bring that into your fold. This kind of represents the desire at the end of the day that you need to have one centralized platform. You need to have one version of the truth, one complete view of all your customers to be able to run your business more effectively and efficiently. In order to do that, though, you can't take the normal approach of the past of a suite option. There is, we say lately, you want to find your sweet spot, and that might not be SUITE. So you want to find a way to maintain the systems you have, create your own best-of-breed solutions, but still keep that data flowing across the enterprise to enable your business leaders to make the right decisions at the right times. So this is the problem that's being faced by a lot of customers that we have out there in market, and we've seen a lot of this coming through of just as companies expand, as the world of enterprise IT changes, these demands are more and more visible across the entire network of enterprises that we work with. So the pain of having data in silos. These separate business units are not aware of what the other one's doing. So you have an individual in APAC who is marketing to a global brand, and that is competing and stepping on the marketing efforts of EMEA and the US division. So you have a similar group of individuals that are receiving competing messages from different areas of the same company. So it starts to negatively affect the brand perception because you simply don't know what your other hand is doing. You don't know what's happening around you because you don't have these systems interconnected. Another major problem is having multiple redundant systems. If I have 3 or 4 different CRM platforms inside my enterprise, I have the same data being replicated across my entire stream, and if that falls out of sync, or I have wrong data being overwritten constantly with it overwriting my right data, I'm in a worse situation than if I only had 1 or no CRM systems. So you can have, there is such thing as too much of a good thing, and we see that a lot within these systems, especially through mergers and acquisitions. You take on the technology stack of that other company, maybe for a short term, maybe forever, but there is definitely some overlaps there in those redundancies. The problem that leads to is you don't have that 360 view of the customer. There is no single point of truth. So if I go to look up Scribe software, I need to look in 4 or 5 different systems to get my complete understanding of what this customer really is, what divisions are being worked on, what is their sales history, who is their rep, who has been working with them in the past, and do we have any ongoing opportunities. So it starts to create a real slowdown for trying to figure out who it is I'm really working with and what they have to do. With that, we now start losing that cross-sell opportunity. So because we don't really know who we're talking to, because we're getting a little bit more nervous about stepping on the feet of our other marketing divisions, it creates a world of fear where I can't reach out. I don't want to interrupt business. And I start to lose some market opportunity by getting us out of there. With that, we also have that human layer. We talk about a lot of copy-paste integration. So if I'm getting an email from a separate rep from a different region, I'm taking that data and I'm putting it into my own CRM system. That's an integration in and of itself, but it's a human layer, which is always prone to mistakes. I didn't have the right thing in my clipboard. I fat-fingered a couple of pieces of data. It might be nothing, or it might be really critical information where now my billing address is wrong and I'm sending invoices to the wrong area. So it can really affect your business by having all those manual intervention layers. And then realistically, once you get to a point of having all this sea of systems, the sea of different enterprise applications you have to work with, managing and maintaining them can become a real expense, an actual hard cost where you've got dedicated teams to keeping these things up and running. You have to have, whether it's a custom coded solution, integration software, some way to manage getting these things together. And depending on how you've approached this, if you piecemeal it over time, you might have 3, 4, 5, 6 different technologies in place just to keep the lights on and keep this functioning. So here, for the situation we're talking about with today's, Jetflix International, here's a representative use case. So we've got up in the cloud Salesforce and Marketo. So we've gotten Salesforce through our normal enterprise IT operations. This is going to be the CRM platform that we've had for a long time. We've got Marketo in the cloud for some marketing automation, and that's shared across the globe. So that is both for my EMEA, my APAC, and my US offices. In the United States, I have a large enterprise SAP deployment for my ERP system, my back office deployments. I also have a lot of other systems that feed themselves off of XML, and also I have some websites, some e-commerce integrations and endpoints that have a back end of MySQL. So I've got a bunch of data that's stored there. On the other side of the pond, in EMEA and Asia Pacific, I've got a bunch of systems that run off SQL Server. Dynamics Nav was, for this individual use case, one of the other ERP applications that was prevalent in the European offices. And then also Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So this was the other CRM solution in-house that maintained the same type of information that Salesforce did, it's just in another location. All these dotted lines, these represent the different methods that we were utilizing to get data across this entire enterprise. Some of this, like I mentioned, might be the copy-paste integration. So whenever a new invoice is filed, I need to make sure I send that over to my finance team in the States. They're going to take that and they're going to manually enter it into SAP. If a web order comes in to the US location, I need to make sure that synchronizes out to Dynamics NAV so I have that order history for my EMEA clients when I have a global audience. So this starts to become a particularly difficult situation to deal with just because I now have multiple interaction layers across the entire global enterprise, as well as with the cloud, and I have to pick and choose which data to move where. Every department is going to be looking for data from the other corresponding areas of the business in order to get that complete view of the customer. So this introduced a lot of issues because now I have some custom-coded solutions. There's some SSIS packages that are in place. There's likely another integration solution, whether it's an iPaaS, like a Zapier or an this and that type of solution, anywhere up to another ETL solution where it might be IBM Cast Iron. It may be another vendor that's in the mix. But I now have 3 different IT organizations trying to manage this and no oversight across the corporate board. So what we needed to do was really create that one version of the truth. We need to go through and take a look at the entire business and say, what is the hierarchy of data? Who owns what, and at what point does the data need to be executed and move across the wire? That integration logic has to be dictated to say exactly what needs to move. We have this saying, you can see lower down, of not boiling the ocean, and this is really important for any integration, but especially this type of siloed integration that we're dealing with, where just because something can be moved and can be integrated does not necessarily need to be integrated. So we need to take a really close look at the business and say, what do your sales executives need to operate effectively? What business statistics need to be brought back in order for your dashboarding to be real-time and relative? And focusing on the things that you know will lead to success. So an easy example here is that CRM solution, making sure that I synchronize accounts and contacts across my global enterprise. And when a change happens, have that synchronized very quickly, because I always want to make sure those sellers, those people dealing with my customers and partners, they are the closest to that route of business. So I want to trust the data that they have versus inbound leads. I want that to be managed from my marketing system. So really creating a logical flow and a process map is incredibly important for that route to success. Now the question is, we have this certain situation where they've already got custom code, they've already got other solutions. What is a good solution to try to bring into place to have a standard? And that's where we came into the Scribe Online platform. So Scribe Online has these 4 key tenets, which is why this really was the right choice for this individual kind of representative use case. Couple customers in mind here. The first being that visual design environment. Having something that can be passed from business analyst down to a developer or an IT shop that is understandable for all divisions of the company. This is not a specific language they have to learn. It's not C# or JavaScript. It's the visual design studio that they can use to not only understand what the integration should be doing, but if they need to make a change over time, having a very simple method to do that. Having that integrator console, so one place to go to see how the health of my integrations are going, anything that has been going on recently. If I need to make a change to it, to go in there and map that one extra field I created. So it's really incredibly important to have that one-stop shopping for integration. The flexible deployment was critical. So we have a global enterprise with divisions in EMEA, APAC, US, and a lot of cloud offerings. So we needed to be able to have a deployment that could support the regional data sets, maintain regional rules and regulations. So data from the EMEA locations can only go through a data center located in that EMEA region, go through deployable agents that can be located there, and pick and choose what can be synced and what doesn't. So it's not a expose your applications to the internet. You pick and choose selectively based upon these integration rules and logic what you want to do. And then lastly, the value-based pricing. Having a really clear price for what integration is going to cost you is a critical path to success, and one where you want to encourage more utilization. So not being penalized for moving more data is really a very critical path, because now you can make that investment into an integration layer and then expand that across your enterprise. How that relates to Scribe is with our architectural model, that iPaaS layer is hosted in the cloud. It allows you to have a cloud layer to be your integrator console. I maintain integrations, I create integration logic, I do all my workflow in that cloud layer. That cloud layer is exposed to the world through a REST API, which is what our user interface is layered on top of. But that also means that enterprise IT can start to roll in the platform to their business control systems. So if they want to have a time-based workflow that integrates a specific type of record at a certain time of day based upon other tasks that are happening in their enterprise, they can leverage that API to call out to it and make it more a part of their standard day-to-day practices. This does not need to be a brand new integration tool that they have to really adopt fully and wholly. They can adopt pieces of it, and they can roll that into their other layers of the enterprise to allow it to be a much more ubiquitous path of success. The other layer of this is that agent layer, where I have deployable agents that can be hosted in the Scribe cloud for those Salesforce, Marketo, cloud-to-cloud syncs, but also deployable in each region so that those regional areas can feed data to one another or up to the core enterprise cloud, allowing it to have a really broad view of their entire customer base, a very broad view of that data, and pick and choose whichever way it needs to fit together. So that's really why we went with that iPaaS approach. And to kind of summarize, we'll show you what this new environment looked like. Because they had Salesforce and it sat above all, this became the corporate standard for what they use for the CRM deployment. So this is going to be that one version of the truth. We then added in that integration layer. So in the past, the way that these systems communicated, like we said, was with some custom-coded solutions, some SSIS packages, and a lot of just manual copy-paste integration. So we changed that to say, this is the layer, this is the method of communication we're going to utilize to get that data in and out of Salesforce. So once you deploy that across, you now have your Dynamics deployment and your Marketo deployments, which are going to allow for your account, contact, and lead sync. This is going to be a bi-directional sync of data that's going to be processed through the Scribe cloud and synchronize that data with those endpoint deployments. Microsoft CRM, if you remember from a previous slide, was located in the EMEA region. So we were able to deploy some lightweight agent technology into that region and allow that to synchronize out to the cloud of Salesforce. Really simple to maintain, and again, within that one integrator console of Scribe. We're then able to layer in that ERP layer. So that ERP layer is going to be a synchronization of products up to Salesforce. We want to make sure when you have that new product line, it's able to get up into Salesforce. It also allows that communication to go up to our cloud and move across to the other ERP system. So I can deploy some changes to my product catalog inside of SAP, and I can have that synchronized down to my Navision deployment in order to keep those two up to date. So this isn't always just a one-to-one Salesforce to something else. This can be across that entire horizontal, where I can move it from CRM into SAP, from NAV into Marketo. I can pick and choose whichever path I want this to go down because I have that integration layer in between, which is going to make every communication protocol very even, very flat, very, very known to the enterprise. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to bring back sales order history and invoice history. So anytime a sales order is created in Salesforce, it's going to route down to the proper ERP solution based upon rules inside that integration. So region and partnership type. If it's someone who's an EMEA partner, it's going to get that sales order into Dynamics NAV. If it's a US partner, it's going to route into SAP. So we can make decisions based upon the data itself as to where the location needs to go. So you can start to build some business flow and process into that integration layer. We're going to bring back all invoice history so that when you look in Salesforce, you see no matter what region that you're located in, what partnership you're talking to, all of their invoice history is available to you for cross-sell, upsell. So if I can see that they've been buying widget XYZ for years and years and I've had a modification to it, I can now reach out to them and target them appropriately because I have all that data in one place. And then the end of year is just all your legacy data. Legacy data, no matter, we're not anywhere close to it being invaluable or non-valuable. It is truly the history of your corporations, the history of your data synchronizations reside in here. It might be an old system that you built from the ground up in Access. There's data in there that is valuable, and you don't always want to just bring something new in and get rid of those old systems. They may be so ingrained into your culture that you simply need to have it there. It needs to be an option. It doesn't mean you have to get rid of it. You can add that into your integration sync and have that integrate with Salesforce or Marketo or CRM or whatever. And those are the different technologies represented. So we had SQL, we had some text files, we had XML, we've got MySQL in the back end. So whatever systems that came across, and this is where by having that one platform for integration, having it easy to expand or use, they were able to go in and see other areas where integration would be helpful and start to roll that in over time. So this isn't a project that took 18 months and then they went dark and came back and never touched it again. This is an iterative process. As new systems come on board, as new requirements rise up, they go through and they can add other synchronization endpoints into this because they have a really clearly defined path of what data should move where, when, and how. So these are some numbers. I scrubbed them up a little bit, but this is really coming from one of our customers that did this, and the different types of integration. So I mentioned this wasn't just a quick go dark and come back project. They've got over 200 different types of integrations inside their network that's being leveraged within the Scribe system. You can see the records and rows process. You've got over 23 million records processed per month, which is actually almost 50 million operations, creates, reads, updates, deletes, that are happening inside that enterprise. And then you can see the performance of how things are running throughout here. So this is not just a throw 5 or 6 integrations together and move on. This is an ongoing process. If I were to go back to this customer, they've probably now gone well over the 219, because as new projects arise, they're leveraging that integration layer to apply that to their enterprise and say, this is the thing I need to do to make this work well. So just a quick, couple of numbers to show you that this is not just, a lot of this is theoretical. The specific use case is an aggregate of a couple of enterprises that are like this. But this is one concrete example of someone who did this, who went through and is actually, reducing those silos of data by adding that integration layer in between. And some real world results. They've been able to now, across these couple of customers we were pulling these quotes from, basically they can do their jobs better because we've got instant access to data. So we're allowed to now bring data into places where it was interdepartment communications prior to that. So I'd send an email, I'd wait for an answer. Senior management can see that entire business, not just regional, not just those small data sets, and asking other regional directors to give them information. They can go into their one corporate instance and see across the entire line of business what's happening. Their sales and partner resellers can work more closely together. So now they're not just having a partnership with an external vendor who has to come back every time to ask questions. With these automatic syncs and website integration, they can produce to them a partner portal. They can come in and see live pricing. They can see exactly what's going on. Any change that's made by this business, they can represent that through those automatic integrations. And then also the last part, documenting these different sales processes by having all the automated integration. It makes their sales operations much more streamlined, much more easy to work with, and they're able to do more with the same resources they had before. So they've been able to be more effective by having all this data interlinked. You're not always going to be able to get rid of a silo, but by adding bridges between them, you can leverage the power of the data that's within there. So some of those next steps, take a look at our Scribe integration software. You can take a look at the link here. Take a look at Scribe Online. Scribe Online, Scribe Insight, both of our integration tools, whether it's on-premise or in the cloud, can help you accomplish these goals we've been talking about today. So the ability to stitch data together, to be able to bring these things into one 360 view of the customer is incredibly important. You can take a look at that, the secondary link of the real-world customer. So this is a case study from one of the customers who actually has gone out and do this. So I encourage you to read through that. This isn't just, again, it's not just Scribe thinking that this is a great idea. We are helping people across the globe accomplish these tasks day in and day out. So I'd encourage you to take a review of that. And then also contact us for more information. If you have a specific integration need, if you come across where this seems very familiar, this story is resonating, saying that, yeah, I'm dealing with it today, I have 50 emails in my inbox waiting for me to get back to them with certain pieces of data about different lines of business, using an integration layer can help you make that a lot simpler and take a little bit of the overhead out of your day-to-day copy-paste integration. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the questions, see if anything's come up. Again, if you have any questions, whether it relates to the content, whether it relates to something you're dealing with internally, please feel free to use that Q&A section, and we'll be sure to get you an answer to any of those questions. So we had a quick question here about, I think it refers to the my slide with some of the graphics on the number of processes and the amount of data, just around performance. So performance is a very interesting topic with especially these type of integrations, because we do see customers moving millions of records per day within the software. We have access to see a lot of the transaction history and the processing power of Scribe. So we're moving billions of records a month within the platform. So it really is all about your representative use case. Some of the integrations that these customers have had needed to be real time. So that doesn't mean I'm going to be moving tens of thousands of records throughout the course of an hour. It's going to be every few minutes I'm going to move a couple hundred records, which is a very different integration scenario. We do have other ones who do large batch integrations. So bring back my entire product catalog once a night, bring back all my invoice history, do aging on my invoices and opportunities, where I'm moving millions of records and need to do it within a couple of hours. So the platforms that we have support both methods and models. We have true event-driven integration, which you can build workflow rules and invoke via REST web services. We also have bulk and batch capability that you can add into your integration design, allowing you to move huge transaction volume in very short periods of time. So really, depending on your use case, you have to design those different types of integrations a little bit separately, but the platform certainly has the ability to keep up with that. Another question you had was about, I mentioned the REST API. That is a fully documented REST API layer. So if you're interested in how to invoke that, add it into your enterprise control systems. It is a full, if you go to our website, under the product section, we have an API area, and it will take you to our API help. You can take a look there and see exactly how we have that. Everything you can do in our platform is exposed via an API. So you can embed whichever components of that you want into your enterprise, whether it's invoking a call, bringing back execution history and errors, or even taking some control components and embedding that into one of the applications you want to give people a little more access to the integration layer. Two questions we get so far. Again, if there's anything you guys have, I'll give you a few more seconds to get them in there. But if I don't see any other questions, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today. I really appreciate the time. Tried to get a lot of content into half an hour, and hopefully I didn't talk too quickly or go through too much. But if you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out to us. That's sales@scribesoft.com. We'll get you to the right account executive, and they can get you both to a sales or technical resource, depending on your question type. But we do encourage you, if you have any questions, comments, ways you think this might be able to help your business, please reach out to us, and we'll do our best to get you the information you need. So with that, we're going to call it a day. Thank you guys so much for your time and your attention, and hopefully you have a great week, and we will all hopefully speak with you soon. Thanks.